Hello and welcome to The Rest is Football with Alan Shearer, Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. It's been another brilliant weekend of action and there's lots to get through today. Probably more the Saturday action was probably a bit livelier than the Sunday action. It's the penultimate weekend of the Premier League season. It saw Burnley sadly relegated. Manchester City continue to exude class as they march towards possibly a fourth consecutive Premier League title. And the Championship playoffs got underway with two typically heart-fought games that both ended goalless. I don't know about you three, but I sat and watched 3 football matches today and saw 1 goal.
Me too.
The 2 playoff games were pretty turgid, to be honest. They got, I thought West Brom and Southampton got a bit lively towards the end, but there weren't many it's all cautious, wasn't it? And then, of course, the big game, which will start on at Old Trafford. Arsenal did what they had to do, but it was certainly far from their best, not their most exhilarating performance. But all that really counts for them, I suppose, at the moment is that win to keep them in contention.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I mean, if you're in neutral like we are, then yeah, what a shit day of football. I mean, I was so excited, looking forward to some great games, some great football, and controversy and goals. And I mean, from an Arsenal point of view, all they have to do is win. It doesn't matter about performance. They did what they had to do. Well done them, but oh my goodness me, it was such a dull Sunday.
It wasn't great, and it wasn't as we said, it wasn't Arsenal's best performance. They were off it a little bit, but they're hard to beat. They're hard to score against. And defensively, you have to say, when you're not at your game, you need your back four and players in front to perform. And I mean, United obviously they've quite a few injuries, and but I actually thought they didn't do too badly possession-wise, but they never really looked like they were going to score, did they?
No, because of that man. Saliba! Come on! What a player he is! I know we've talked about all season, but it's just his timing. When you're watching centre-halves, and I know you guys love to watch the forwards, but I love watching the defenders and how they read the game and the positioning and the tackling and the timing. And the timing of his challenges today was just impeccable. The reading of the game is great. We all know he's got pace as well and he's good on the ball, but what a player he is. Best player on the pitch by far.
Helps when you've got not very much in front of you you're playing against, though, doesn't it? I mean, goodness me, that Man United team, I think that's the worst Man United team I've seen in my lifetime.
Well, not the performance today, you just mean generally
you can't fault their effort. They tried.
Yeah.
But in terms of ability-wise, and I know they've got loads of injuries, but I mean, would you argue against me that team being the worst in my lifetime that I've seen?
Well, of Manchester United's teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously they've been through some difficult times in recent years, but at the minute they look kind of... I mean, yeah, there are some big players missing, clearly, but they're miles off it. We've said that all season. But, Arsenal went there. It's not a place where they've been particularly successful the last decade or so. So all they would have cared about at this stage, they had to get that win come what may. There was a degree of caution to the game that I was thinking... God, they might pay for this, The one, and he took one kind of. I mean, Garnacho was a threat, but his final ball was awful, or the entire match, I thought. But I mean, he is dangerous, and all it needed would, one where he cuts in and could conceivably bend one in the top corner, and then all of a sudden, the title race is pretty much done, really.
You know what? I'm really worried though for the young players at Man United, because when we were young players coming through, you had them senior pros who would sort of guide you through. But we've sort of talked about Mainu and how good he is, but he's having to be the main man in the team at his age. And then Garnacho's only 19 as well. Højlund's only young as well. So, of course, playing for Man United, if you're good, it doesn't matter your age really. If you're good enough, you play. We know that, but they've got no guidance, have they? And I feel like it's very difficult to sort of assess Man United without the full context. When you've got Lindelof, Martial, Fernandes, Maguire, Martinez, Shaw, Rashford, and Mount out, it's always going to be tough. So I would have to agree with Alan in terms of the worst team in what we've definitely seen over the years. I have to agree because they're just not ready yet and they've not got the guidance that they need. And watching them and having to see young players consistently have to deal with off-field, on-field, is the manager going to be here? There's no long-term plan. And we've talked about the owners and all that sort of thing, but I feel for the players because at the moment, it's making very good young top players look very average, and they're better than that, you know?
I suppose possibly the one bonus for them is that they are producing a few young, talented players again, which hasn't been the case perhaps for a while. And there is this change at the top, which you perhaps will filter down. But it's hard to look long-term in football, isn't it? I mean, it's easy to say, we need to build something. We've got to bring this in. We've got to do that. We've got to sort the recruitment out. We've got to, all these things that you have to do. There's no quick fix for that, is there? So, you need the patience but there's no such thing as patience in football.
Well, they've been in decline for such a long time now, Gary, that it is going to take a long time to get them anywhere. I mean, they're miles off it. Even with those players that you mentioned, Micah, who are out injured, even if they were all fit, they're still going to take a long time for them to be challenging, to be where City are or where Liverpool have been or Arsenal. They're a million miles away, even with those. So, it is what it is at Man United. It's going to be a tough, long road, I think, for them. I thought their fans were brilliant today, by the way.
Yeah.
I thought they really stuck with them, and right throughout the second half, they were making a hell of a noise and trying to back the team as much as possible. But the Man United wouldn't have scored if they were there for 24 hours.
No, didn't ever really look threatening. Arsenal only got the one goal. Trossard, I think that's the 12th goal. He scored some big ones this season. I think only Saka's scored more league goals than him for Arsenal. He's been a good signing, hasn't he? Sometimes coming from the bench, other times starting.
Agreed, yeah. I think what's so good about him is his versatility as well. Whether he's played false nine on the left or tucked in at the right at times, I just think he's a really intelligent player. And when you need a cool head going in front of goal, he's just got that. I think the best thing about Trossard is his movement. He's calm in his movement, and then he's got that confidence to stick it away. We all saw it at Brighton, didn't we? We know how good he was going to be, but to fit into Arsenal the way he has, it's been brilliant.
Yeah, very good. Superb.
So, Arsenal now have got to obviously wait. They've got a point lead. City play at Tottenham on Tuesday. Now, whatever happens, we know we're going to go to the last day of the season, and that's great, isn't it? So, I mean, it's the match of the day that we want, where we can perhaps chop and change in the edit as we switch from game to game if it becomes exciting. I mean, imagine if Tottenham get a draw somehow against Manchester City, which will be difficult the way City are playing, but we know what football's like. It's been a bit of a bogey ground, the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for Manchester City. I think they've only scored one goal there so far. So you never know. If they went to the last game on level points, and it could be like, could end up being a goal difference shootout. At the moment, wow. I think Arsenal are 3 goals ahead. So, if it's a draw, that would remain 3, but City are capable of going mad and scoring 6 or something. It could be like 3-0, 6-0, 4-0, 7. Who knows? I'm dreaming here, but because we want, a kind of Aguero moment, don't we?
Imagine that. Arsenal win it on the last day for Ian Wright send-off, the BBC.
I called it a few weeks ago. It's written in the stars, but
wow.
I think I've got a feeling Man City might spoil it.
Can you imagine how he would be on that Sunday, Gaz? How lively he would be, how mad he would be running around the room if that was the case.
Oh my goodness! I'd actually pay good money for that to happen. I've got no skin in this game. I don't mind whether City win it or Arsenal, though I tipped Arsenal. And it's always nice to be sort of right, although I only did it, to be perfectly honest, because you two both went with Man City, but because it's always hard to go against them. But
do you think he would do a U-turn though and come back like Xavi at Barcelona and just have another year extension? Because
that would be the way to go, wouldn't it?
No, because you want to glow on Match of the Day being champions. You know what Wright is like. Come on.
I don't know.
Nah, he's
We'd
done.
always have
He's
him
off.
back. We'd always have Wright back.
We've had enough of him. We don't want him back.
Yeah, don't want him back. Yeah. So Man City were very good yesterday, weren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they just they're making it look almost too easy at the moment. But as we know in this strange game that we love so much, the weird things do happen. You know, a couple of bad decisions, a bit of bad luck, just a bad day at the office, and things can turn. But it doesn't look that way. The way they're performing at the moment, but as Real Madrid showed, you know, you can. But that is Real Madrid.
And Tottenham are definitely not Real Madrid. Certainly not
at the
defensively.
moment.
Anyway, no.
They play the same colour.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, City were ruthless against Fulham, weren't they? They battered them from. There wasn't 1 minute in that game where I thought there was only going to be one result, and it was just a matter of how many Man City were going to get. They battered them.
I think the only disappointment for me was that Micah didn't bring in Guardiola into his fantasy team.
Gary, honestly, I've just about got over that. You can't
honestly, I could tell something was wrong yesterday, and I thought, what's wrong with Micah? And then I thought, we were sat there, weren't we? All, and I'd come in, I'd been there an hour or so, and I thought, then in the first game, we're watching the 3:00 games, and I thought, something's not right with Micah here today. And I went, Micah, fantasy. He went, I don't know why you do it to yourselves.
When you make a change, and Harry, one of the producers, plays it a lot as well.
He did bring in Guardiola.
It's the fact that I put him in, took him out, took him out at least 15 times. And then I decided
Micah, can
not
I suggest
to go
that's
with him.
probably a good reason for you never going into management? Can you imagine picking your team? I'll put him in. No, I'll put him in. No, I'll put him out. I wonder if managers do that, you know. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, Alan, you look the way your team went. It looked like you were doing something like that. When you did it. I wonder if. I mean, with Pep, I don't know. I think he probably goes, "Oh, maybe I'll put him on that position. I know what I'll do. I'll play Guardiola high on the left-hand side of the pitch tomorrow."
It's madness, isn't it? You know what? Obviously we got the FA Cup final, but we always talked about how good Pep is as a manager, but he's an absolute genius. And we alluded to it a little bit yesterday on Match of the Day. The fact that you buy a centre-half who's so good on the ball, obviously good at the World Cup, he was good at Leipzig, he was like the next big thing, centre-half coming through. So Pep brings him into his side, then plays him left back. And it's just madness. But left back and being effective, not just a decoy. And then you remember when he did it with Cancelo, played him at left back and then went him into centre mid, played him at right back. And he's found a way to get Kyle Walker, to get the best out of Kyle Walker, was saying, you don't need to go forward. You just come into a free at the back. He's done it with John Stones from a centre back into midfield.
Ake as well.
Ake, all sorts of different positions. Akanji as well. You win the league without a recognised striker. Like, what more does Pep have to do to prove he's...
I don't think he needs to prove himself anymore.
But people do still question.
It's football.
I know, but it's remarkable what he's doing. It's remarkable.
And the way he improves players' performances and the ability to play in various positions. I mean, it goes back, doesn't it, really? That, you know, you talk about Guardiola playing he's a central defender who's played on the fullback. Now he's playing further forward on Saturday at least. And it's like that whole thing, that whole total football thing that was brought in, that Dutch football that Cruyff brought to Barcelona, that Pep's obviously followed on, that players should be able to, if you're good enough to be able to play in different. But it sounds a simple thing to say, but in practice, it's crazy how he manages to pull it off.
That's ridiculous.
Because in my time, I remember when I played for managers. Sometimes you play, square pegs in round holes or the other way round, and you've got a player that's playing, and it never seemed to work. Players playing out of position just looked like they couldn't cope with it. But it doesn't seem to matter with him who he plays or where they play. I mean, obviously they're all very, very good players, because you can't do that with rubbish. But it'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it, if he took on a smaller club at some point, just for a giggle, to see how good he could make them.
It would be really
and whether it
interesting,
was even possible to do it.
Yeah. Well, it requires a different skill set in management, doesn't it? Because if you're spending, I don't know, 30 or 40 million on a player at a smaller club, you've got to play them. Whereas if you're spending 70 million at Man City and they're not up to it, you just leave them out and no questions are asked. Whereas you're blowing your budget at a smaller club and you've got the chairman or the owner screaming at you when the player's on big money and he's not playing or whatever. It's a completely different skill set in management. But that doesn't take away from how brilliant he is. I mean, he's just a genius.
But Alan, just on that point, how many times have we talked about when big players come in and being able to not play and keep the dressing room happy? The thing is with Pep, if he doesn't like you, like he sells Cancelo when he was the best fullback in the league. He said, okay, no problem. I'll replace him with someone else. Aguero, in that final season before he was going, okay, he's not doing the running that I require for my team, so see you later. Yeah. The list goes on. Yaya Toure. I'm sure he could have done at least another year in the way Man City. It's madness.
Do you think perhaps out of all those, though, perhaps the one he might think, Cole Palmer? Maybe.
Cole Palmer is that.
I was devastated. Footballer.
Devastated when he left, and I think it's because I've seen him come through the youth and all that sort of thing, and I knew how good he was.
Did you think he was as good as what he's shown? I mean, it was obviously there was unbelievable talent there at City.
I hadn't seen that talent.
No, I hadn't.
But we didn't see him that often, though, did we? That's probably why.
I saw that, yes, but the other side to his game in terms of the pressing, I didn't think he would fit into the Man City system. Not, you know what I mean? Because he's just a technical genius. And all with Foden, he's got that, but he also can run about, can't he? And that's I think that was a difference.
I'm sure most people are having these discussions at the moment because obviously we're coming up to the Euros, and I think most of it people are going, well, I'd play him, and will he play him? And we were talking today. It's like they've got so much talent, but it's almost as though this kid could be better than all of them.
It's ridiculous.
Possibly, with the exception, I would say probably Bellingham's a different kind of animal. But in terms of the tens and but I don't know I just thought today if you got Rice and Bellingham playing there, and then either Palmer or Foden, and you play them all, Palmer, Foden, Saka, and then Kane in the middle. You could play either on the left, and they could fiddle around and move around. God, who? No one would ever get the ball off them.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous. But the thing is, though, if it was a different nation like Brazil, they would play them.
Yeah, well, I think there's every chance that, if players are that good, you'll keep the ball. And people go, yeah, but defensively. Yeah, but the best form of defence is never giving the ball away. It always has been. And you've still got really good players behind them. But the important thing is all the players can really play. You've got to have play. You can't have one weak link in that midfield forward area that gives the ball away. But you wouldn't have that if you've got Foden, Palmer, Saka, Kane, Rice and Bellingham with Stones behind and the terrific fullbacks that England have got as well. And, we'll perhaps come on to that later and possibly, who's going to be the left backs. Trippier and Reece James can both play that side, and they've both just come back into, obviously played some minutes, so that's quite useful. So we've slipped away a little from the title race, but it's also exciting.
It's so exciting.
Yeah, it really is. So can you see Tottenham causing City problems? Can they do their old friends Arsenal a favour? It's a weird one for Spurs fans, because Spurs fans will want to win because they've still got an outside chance of Champions League football. So they do need those 3 points. It's not like a meaningless game at the end of the season for Tottenham. But it'll be a tough one for for Tottenham fans because it could, they could be cheering their team on to basically win the title for Arsenal.
Yeah,
that'd be so Spursy, wouldn't it?
It depends, though, doesn't it? Because if Liverpool were to beat Villa tomorrow, then there's more on the game on Tuesday, isn't there? They've still got a chance of making the Champions League. But if Villa were to win, then it's going to be an awkward situation. It really is.
And Spurs won their first game in 5 after 4 straight defeats. They beat Burnley yesterday, and that relegated Burnley. Obviously, it was, Spurs have been a bit all over the place, but they needed that win. It'll be an interesting game against City. I can't see anything but a few goals.
Yeah.
The way Spurs' high line and Haaland with the way he runs behind. I kind of fear the worst a little bit for Tottenham and Arsenal, of course.
Yeah, I think there'll be plenty of goals, and probably most of them from Man City.
Micah?
Yeah, I agree. I was a little bit disappointed with Spurs against Burnley, if I'm being totally honest. I did think that the first half was really poor from Spurs' point of view. Opened up in the second half a little bit. I thought Maddison came into the game a bit more. Son was a little bit quieter than usual. Kulusevski switched from one wing to the other in the second half. Didn't have the real impact. Obviously, 2 good goals from Pedro Porro and Van de Ven, who I really love.
I like him as well. Alan's not so sure. We've had a little bit of a debate. I think he suffered a little bit because obviously he did his hamstring and then he had another tweak. And I think that probably, and he made a couple of mistakes, particularly against Newcastle, which was, I think, the game that. But I don't know. He's very quick, and that high line they play is tough for any central defender. So I think he's going to be very good, and he's still young.
Yeah, I just think to say how brilliant he is, etc., might be a little bit too soon. There's undoubted ability there, yeah, but I think there's certainly bigger tests that will come his way. But yeah, he's had a very good start, and he looks to be a good signing. But I wouldn't go overboard just yet. Okay,
it'd be interesting to see if we see in the summer that partnership for Netherlands with VDV and VVD, Van de Ven and Virgil van Dijk. Sounds like some kind of dodgy disease.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, you took the words from my mouth.
It's not the disease you want in your mouth, that one. Or anywhere else for that matter. Burnley and, Luton as well, let's be perfectly honest, because they need some kind of staggering miracle that won't happen to avoid relegation. So it's the 3 promoted clubs that go down. Alan, does that show we're getting a wider gap, or is it? And I think the combined total of the points so far is 66 between the 3 of them, which is an all-time record by some distance. Or is it just one of those seasons?
I think it's one of those seasons. We all know how difficult it is for teams when they come up to try and stay up and then actually stay up again and again. It's really difficult. But yeah, these Luton. I think Luton have given a best account of themselves. They've been competitive. I think in terms of the budget, Sheffield United, it was almost impossible straight away because they had a tough start, probably sold a couple of their best players. And so I never had any hope for them at all. I looked at Burnley, and after 3 or 4 games, I thought, unless you change your style of football, you're going to go down. And I've never wavered from that right from the beginning of the season. I just cannot understand that you have a style of football, and clearly those players cannot play that style of football at this level, Burnley. So they were always going to go down. And to be fair to Luton, they were competitive. They had some really... I think they've given a good account of themselves. They're in a healthy position to go back down in terms of the squad that they've got. They haven't spent massively. New stadium, new exciting young manager. So I would think they've given a good account of themselves. The other 2, I think, have been pretty hopeless.
Yeah. I mean, I think Rob Edwards has come over really well as well, hasn't he? I mean, he's obviously an emotional guy. and he's been dealt some tough hands this season, with one thing and another. But I think they can go. They will go down, but they'll go down with their heads held high and in decent shape. You would think probably because they've not overspent, they've not been crazy in that way, to perhaps have another challenge at the Championship next season and return in a year or so's time.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And the only thing, though, going back to the original question is, don't forget, Forest got dock points and Everton got dock points as well. So when you ask about the gap, it is a worrying sign. I know we've talked about the financials. We won't go back into that today, but teams coming up and other teams getting dock points and are still not managing to stay up. If you look at it on the whole,
Burnley spent 100 million quid.
Yeah, but they had big turnaround, didn't they, with players? They had loads of loans that they had to send back, and they thought they had to spend that money to try and stay up. They had too much inexperience, and you're right, Alan. You were right. You called it from early on in the season. Basically, you can't play that way in the Premier League. They had a little bit of a run, didn't they, for 5 or 6 games recently, Burnley, where they looked a lot better. But it's always, for me, it was more probably hope, because Vincent Kompany is my good mate. And yeah, I texted him last night saying unlucky and whatnot. But yeah, I think naivety is the word I would use for them this season.
Do you think he's beyond reproach? It's almost as though because of perhaps what he did in the season before and who he is and the stature he has in the game and the greatness that he's done in the Premier League, that he doesn't seem to get too much grief from people. Is that our fault? Should we be more critical of him? I mean, Alan, to be perfectly honest, you've spoken out many times this season and said he's got to change.
Yeah, I like him, and I loved what he did in terms of getting Burnley up and how they played and what have you. But I just think when you, I said it on Match of the Day, didn't I? The definition of madness is keep doing the same thing again and again and again and hoping for something different. You
don't need to be Einstein to work out that.
Yeah, it's just I would think he would. I know he's got his philosophy and how he wants to play, but there's no harm in changing now and again and having a look and doing something else that may work. It may not. But it was just constant every week, and it was a mistake week after week after week, and being punished week after week, and it was the same old story every single weekend. Trying to play out from the back, not good enough, getting punished, giving goals away, and giving yourselves a mountain to climb with Burnley. But
I suppose also if you've got a principle and there's a bit of stubbornness possibly in there as well, that you want to see it through. But they'll stick with him, don't you think?
Burnley? Yes, they will.
They'll stick with him.
I hope so. Yeah,
I think it's the right decision as well. It'll only make them stronger, won't it? I think what he needs to do is keep the same players. And don't forget, Foster had the problems as well when he wasn't feeling great with his the mental health side of things as well. So you lost your key striker for part of the season, sort of disrupted him a little bit as well. But yeah, keep the same team, work on the same things that you've worked on this year, but maybe tweak little things to make you a little bit more robust for the Premier League. Because if I'm looking at Kompany and what they can do next year in the Championship, I'm expecting them to bounce straight back up just because of what he did previous. But yeah, I agree with Alex in terms of he's got to adapt certain things.
Yeah, it's ultimately it's about the quality of players you've got, and I suppose in terms of the way you want to play, and if they're not up to it, they're not up to it, and that's sadly proved the case for them this season. I want a word on Forest because they've stayed up, and that was decided this weekend, barring something stupid, which is not going to happen. Despite a point deduction, I thought they were quite a good team to watch under Nuno Espirito Santo. I thought they've played, they've got some good players. That they'd always look like they're going to score goals, but they managed to stay up.
Yeah, I agree. They have got some good players. There's some really talented players in there. I think Gibbs White is really exciting.
I like him a lot. Yeah.
I know he was a big investment, but he's a really talented player. Yeah, I mean, it's been really tough for the players having to deal with that because it's through no fault of their own that they've been put under huge pressure all season. And it was only, the last sort of 6 weeks or so that they found out their punishment. But the players have sort of had to put up with that. And people say, well, shouldn't be any... Players should take the notice of what's going on. They should just go out and play. But it does affect you, and there's no doubt that it affects you as a player. So I think the players have done really well in handling the stuff they've had to handle and coming through that.
Callum Hudson-Odoi is he's kind of looks like he's realising that potential that he showed as a young lad at Chelsea before that awful injury.
Yeah, we've talked about him.
Yeah, we did
a little bit, haven't we? It's always difficult coming back from a long-term injury.
He does like that cutting and bend it in the far corner. He's bloody
brilliant.
Good at that.
You can't stop it though. He's just got that little drop of the shoulder. I've got to give a shout out to Ola Aina as well. I think he's been good this season. Murillo, the centre half.
Is Aina the one with the long throw?
Oh yes, with a long.
My goodness, I haven't seen him throw that long in ages. Well, he throws it to the far post. It's like a bullet. He's not a big lad, is he? He's like,
such a weapon, isn't he? Whoa. Yeah.
I like Murillo as well. You mentioned him briefly there, Murillo.
Yeah, Murillo. Yeah, centre half. Yeah. Great little player. Only small, but really reads the game well. He's really aggressive, really quick. And the goalkeeper as well, Sells. Yeah, Sells. I think he's done a really good job since he's come in as number one. Seems to have steadied the back line a little bit, a lot more confidence. So they've got some really good players. I'm looking forward to see what they can do. I think to go to the next step for Forest, Wood's really good option in terms of holding it up. But if they need a little bit more than that as well, I know they've got a 1 year as well, but I think they need another striker as well to kick on next season.
I think you're probably right. As for Chelsea, I mean, we talked about Cole Palmer earlier, but what about the pass for the Mudryk goal? Oh, the weight of it. Messi-esque that was.
He finished it really well. He actually had a very similar pass the other side with Nicholas Jackson, if you remember, when he played him in as well for 1v1, and he should have scored. But
you did Jackson for your analysis last night, Alan, because we've been looking at him, haven't we? We think there's something in there, isn't there? He could be a little bit like a Nunez at Liverpool, where you go, he's got something about him. He looks to get behind players. He makes really good runs. Just needs to improve his finishing slightly, but he's still young. He's definitely improved, I think, as the season's gone on. I think, you said, I asked you at the end of your analysis last night when you said, I'd like the way he's improving, whether they still need to go out and get a number 9. You said,
they do.
Most definitely, yes.
100%. And that may help Jackson because he may work alongside him and learn from him, whoever that may be.
Who could they get?
Osimhen's
still available. He's still around, isn't he?
Yeah, Osimhen's one.
Tony,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I just think, for him...
Isak, sorry.
No, they couldn't afford it. I just think it's been unfair on him this season a lot because he's had to play most of the games and clearly he's very raw. He should have been in and out so many times during the season rather than being a regular, just to sit back and learn, take the pressure off him, put him in when need be, take him out when need be. But he's had to play the vast majority, which has been unfair for him because he's not ready for that. He's definitely got talent. He's a really good runner with the ball. He runs really well in behind, which defenders hate. He's got really good pace. He does have to brush up on plenty of things, including his finishing, which is probably the most important thing. But you can do that. You can improve on that. We know that. You can get better at that.
Practice.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think he's got a cool head. I don't think he snatches at things. I don't see that. I think it's just a matter of learning his trade. I think.
What did you make of Pochettino's words before the game though, in terms of him saying, "Well, yeah, I like it here, but they might not want me," and this. I think the point he was trying to make was that I think the people question him all the time. They're always going, "Are they happy with him? Will they stick with him? Is he happy? Is the owners happy? Are they happy with his performances?" And I think his point was going, well, you can ask me if I'm happy with the way things are going as well, possibly. I think that's what he tried to make out the point
was, but I also think it might have been a little bit of a, okay, come on, I'm doing all right now. Things are going well. I need you to support me. I don't know, but what did you make of it, Alan?
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it's him. He's had to take a lot of shit this season. A lot of it through no fault of his own, because we know how it works at Chelsea and how it's going to work. So I think that was just, I think that was him having a little dig back to say, I think he's done a really good job. They could get into sixth. I mean, they're going to be between them, Newcastle and Man United, I think it is, isn't it? Who will get to into that sixth spot, and that's probably going to be good enough for a UEFA Cup spot. If he were to get that would be a bloody good season for him.
It would be amazing, because the UEFA Cup ended about 300 years ago.
No, you know what it is. You know what I mean.
Europa League.
I'm showing my age there.
Do
you know what the UEFA Cup was, Micah?
Yeah. I remember the UEFA
Micah,
Cup, yeah.
do you know what I won?
What did you go on?
I won the European Cup Winners' Cup.
When did that end?
Probably just after I won it. I don't know. Quite a long time ago, but that was basically what the old wasn't it? That was the UEFA Cup, Europe Cup Winners' Cup. So that was the teams that won the cup in all their own countries, and then they go in. That was how it used to be. There was a separate competition.
There's an episode on cups, isn't there? Remember the
beat
Coca-Cola Cup?
Sampdoria in the final, Micah, 2-0.
Sampdoria. Who was that team? Was Mancini played in that? Mancini,
Vialli. They were a really good side. Yeah, you got it.
Oh,
Micah, I played in the full Members' Cup final at Wembley against Forest.
Full members.
Full
And the
Members'
Le
Cup,
Tournoi, Le Tournoi.
The
It was actually
Tournoi.
89 it was, that final against Sampdoria. Johan Cruyff.
89, wow.
I played on the wing, assist for the first goal. Anyway, oh
34
God,
years
memories,
ago.
Memories. Over 30 years ago.
The
that was the
Coca-Cola,
end of
did
my
you
career.
just say as well, Micah? And remember that there was a Rumbelows Cup as well.
The
Rumbelows.
Rumbolo, I remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember it, but I remember the name. Coca-Cola Cup is what I remember. Yeah.
Who's going to go through in the championship? Who's going to get...
After today's evidence, I haven't got a fucking clue.
Anyone who scores a goal, I would say. I mean, they're always a bit cautious in the first legs, I think, but I suspect it might be Leeds and Southampton. They're good results for those two sides, aren't they?
Yeah.
You got to say
Yeah.
that.
I said Southampton, didn't I? So I think that was a good result for them. Zip away at West Brom. So, yeah, I would fancy Southampton to get through.
Yeah.
Leeds. I'm sticking with Leeds.
Of course you are, and I think I went Southampton as well. Before we go, a last little thing. I'm just going to go into my phone now. Here it is. It's currently taking place because it's now 7:45, so they're 57 minutes into the game by Leverkusen. Because we've been following it all season, we're still hoping they do it. You'll never believe this. They're winning 2-0.
Yes!
The last time they lost a game, which obviously was at the end of last season because they haven't lost a game at all in any competition this season, was against today's opponents, Bochum.
Oh, wow, okay. And it's currently 2-0, is it?
2-0 up, Leverkusen. They're normally 2 down at this stage. I mean, that comeback last week was just nuts, wasn't it?
Again?
Nuts.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. So, no, it's all very exciting. And on that note, a big week lies ahead. I'm really looking forward to it. Let's hope it goes right to the last minute or two. That's it for today's episode of The Rest is Football. We'll be back on Wednesday with our question and answer episode. Please do keep sending in your questions for that. You can do so via our newsletter. Just go to therestisfootball.com. It's completely free to sign up, and you'll get a weekly roundup of all the best football action and our discussions. Have a great week, everyone. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Have a great week.